Wife's secret obsession with another man revealed. That last story was pretty cute. Did you win? My wife Deborah asked after coming home from work the other day. Debs is one of those registered nurse practitioners. She works mostly with geriatrics, meaning old people who aren't quite dead yet. Like me. Debs is 58 years old, I think. She certainly doesn't look or act 58, and I know it because I see her doing her exercises before bed. I like the jumping jacks best when she only has her panties on. She often tries to talk me into joining in, but I do it at the gym. At home, I just want to watch. What about me? I'm Dan, and I'm turning 70 in a couple months. When I was in my early 60s, I was already aging, but now I don't feel old and I don't look it. Well, I may look it, but I certainly don't feel it. Why not? Well, Deborah, of course. I exercise twice a week on a regular schedule, like clockwork, and my wife keeps track of it. That kind of regular activity helps keep things moving forward, as if the engine were well oiled, I guess. Some of you young guys may laugh at the fact that an old guy like me has an active sex life, but I don't mind. When some young men are at the point where you can't take it anymore, Debs and I are probably just getting started. Deborah makes sure that, as I said, my wife is naughty. We are also both faithful to each other, at least for the most part. I guess it's all in how you look at it. I've never had meaningful sex with any woman since we got married, and in the almost 10 years before that, to be honest. I'm also pretty sure Debs hasn't either, except for one doctor she told me about. That was 3 to 4 years before we met. I guess he wasn't too impressive, which is odd since he was a doctor. So yeah, when we met, we both did without sex. Deborah admitted that her friend Jewel had been coming over regularly and giving her massages for years. I thought about that. With a woman? I'd like to see it, but at this point I've never done it. I even mentioned it to her a couple times, and she just giggled and said, maybe. Yeah, Debs is cranky, like me, I guess. She's also hardly ever jealous, which is probably a good thing considering we have things going on in our house almost all the time. Debs knows I like women, so when she sees a pretty one, I take her by the elbow and point her out, like that woman in the shorts on the boardwalk. She bent over to throw hot dogs to the seals. Look at that ass, honey, said Deborah, nudging me with her elbow. I looked, man. I also resisted the urge to sneak up behind her and pull them down to get a better look. My old head thinks exactly that, but I resist those urges. Not wanting to go to jail keeps me in line. Debs spends a great deal of time at work with nearly naked old men. Some of these men belong to the driving forces of our small town, as if that means something. It really shouldn't. But I admit that the thought crosses my mind from time to time when we run into someone. So we ran into a local judge, like the one who heard my case when the government tried to claim I was dead some 3 or 4 years ago. Yeah, Debs knows what his body looks like. County commissioner? Yeah, Debs knows what his body looks like. The pastor at the neighborhood church we go to once or twice a month when they have those sit-ins? Yeah, Debs knows what his body looks like. Even the salesman at the car dealership where we bought Deborah her new Camaro and the manager who handled the paperwork. Yep, she's seen everyone's bodies for 100 miles in every direction. There's also Jack from next door, but he's a nudist, so she's seen his body too. As for Deborah poking and groping almost everyone, that's her job. Debs looks cute in the new Camaro. It has what they call the Ghost RS package, a V6 that's kind of scrappy, but rides okay on gasoline. It also dents easily, already have a few small dents on the door from Safeway parking lot. I don't drive it because I have to put the seat all the way down and back, and Debs has to put the seat all the way down and forward, so I drive my big diesel Dodge. Where have I been? I banter with her about her job all the time when I have to deal with everyone. She actually likes her job, I know, because she told me so. But she caught me a little off guard with her question, not that I was completely alert around her. Did you win? She asked. Truth be told, I'd completely forgotten about it as I was working on a science fiction story about a guy whose brain was harvested while he was still alive. Imagine this. The poor guy can't see, can't hear, but he's alive and can feel. It would be like a fantasy world lost in dreams. At least I think so. I make up stories like this from time to time because I spent a few years in a wheelchair a few years ago, and it gives me some insight into what it's like to be almost helpless. This idea makes me think about emotions. I've been working on this story about the human brain for 2 years now. I don't know yet. I don't think so. It didn't have any public nudity in it. I wrote it trying to be funny. Honey, you know I read all your stories. Why is it so common for women to expose their stuff to guys? She asked this with as much expression on her face as possible. Ah? What do you mean? I write about science fiction and romance and nature and forests and stuff like that. Do you have some sort of latent fantasy on the subject? She asked, completely ignoring what I'd just said. No, of course not. I lied. Where? Did this come from? I know you got so excited when I went topless on that cruise we went on. All those guys were watching. She grinned. You always get me excited when you go topless, I said. You're so cute, but I'm serious. Does it turn you on? A little, I guess. I like looking at women, you know that. I'm a guy, I protested. Not at other women, silly. I mean, would it turn you on if some other guy was peeping at me? Now she was really smirking. She sort of pulled her shoulders back as if posing. Debs has really nice breasts. Well, we're married, so some things have to stay private, you know. I tried to figure out what she was getting at, but I'd already lost the thread of the conversation because of the rasp I was writing. You can tell me. It's okay. We shouldn't have any secrets. I know what you're like. Okay. Busted on that one. If you ever saw Debs in the swimsuit she wears at our gym, let's just say you'd look at her too. It's a wonder I don't drop heavy things on my legs. All that working out makes her look, you know, trim. So yeah, I like my Deborah to be noticed. Well, yeah, a little bit, I guess. Like when we went to the bodybuilder show down south and Sid was there with no clothes on at all. I thought for a minute you were going up there too. Sid is a woman at our gym. She wears a bikini to workouts, and her body is, well, impressive. But at that show at the men's club, she had no clothes on. That was something else. But the guys at the show thought Deborah was part of it, so we went from there. Deborah smiled at me. I bet you'd give yourself a bunch of heart attacks if those old assholes looked at you sitting in the audience more than the girls on stage, I added. Do you really think so? Did you like it? Yeah. It turned me on, but we left before it got really good, I smirked. I thought so. She went into the kitchen, peeked in the oven, and looked at the meatloaf I was cooking. Smells good, honey. Debs went into the bedroom, and I heard the shower running. I peeked in there and finished dinner. Yeah, I'm making dinner for us, so what? And what led to this? I asked as we both gave up further attempts to eat. Which led to what? She asked, glaring at me and fluttering her eyelashes. You asked about my fantasies. Oh, that. I had a client today. She's in her early 30s. She told me that her husband has trouble in the bedroom, and the only thing that really turns him on is when they go out to flirt with people. Really? Yes, and I think there have been a few times she's done it to please him. Like what? She mentioned that they went shoe shopping a few times. You know how Becky's boutique has slanted mirrors on the floor so the customers can get a good look at the shoes when they try them on? Debs chuckled lightly. I don't understand. If someone steps back a little, they can look right under her dress. I never thought of that. I usually go to Old Man Vidalis. He's cheaper. I know Henry Cotton owns a store called Becky's. He named it after his wife. All the stuff is high-priced, but he has a lot of women's clothes, swimsuits, 5-inch heels shoes on display. She also told me she lets the men who work there look under her dress when they put her shoes on so she can try them out. Debs chuckled. She found that amusing. Becky's boutique, huh? Actually, it was Becky's boutique where Debs bought the tan-colored leotard she wears to our workouts, the one that fits her like a second skin and has clasps that I expect to come undone during stretching, but never did. A few times I've seen her panties peek out, and it always makes me take notice. No kidding? You mean on purpose? Who is she? I asked. You know I can't tell you that. Anyway, she does it for her husband and says it really turns him on. So it got me thinking about all those stories you write. A lot of them have similar situations in them, so it made me curious if you like that sort of thing. Hey, it's a sexy site. They have all sorts of racy stories, but I think most of them are made up and real people don't even do anything like that. I think a lot of them do, at least in private. I just wonder if everyone has a fantasy. You know, something that turns them on. That's what I want to know about yours. I think it has to do with a husband being proud of his wife. That's part of it too, said I. And I think it has more to do with power and control, like men buying fancy cars to show off, suggested Debs. I don't drive a fancy car. Your truck has 4 doors, tires almost 4 feet high, and the engine, how big is it? It's a diesel, the truck. It needs a big engine, protested I. Besides, you drive a Camaro, I added. So you like a big car that shows power and control. Debs grinned, ignoring my remark about the Camaro. Yeah, maybe. But some of them want other men to have sex with their wives, and that doesn't turn me on one bit. I just don't understand it. Sometimes women like it too. Being noticed, I mean. Debs told me. Is that why you wear that leotard to the gym? I asked. I wear it because it's comfortable. Yeah, you look disgusting in it. Your boobs are sticking out, I told her. Thanks, honey. And you like that, don't you? She grinned. Yeah, I guess I do. It's sexy, and sex is sex, and everyone likes it. Some women wear naughty clothes because their husbands like it. And what do you mean by that? I asked. Well, darling, you know when Nicola comes over, I know she does something. I like that you enjoy it. I also know that Nicola never wears underwear. Nicola is a girl who comes to our house a couple times a month. She gives massages for both of us. And I didn't know she never wears underwear. Most women would be angry or jealous. You don't seem to be, I told her. No, I don't. It turns me on. Debs was already smirking, and I knew her signs well. We looked at each other and smiled, and within 3 seconds she was in my lap and one breast in my mouth. See? Just talking about it, just thinking about it made you so hot, she said later. Me? You're the one who got turned on. Debs laughed and headed for the shower. So, tell me what kind of woman it was, you know? The one her old man wants to show the guys. Later, I probed Debs one more time. She usually spills the beans if I push her a little. She's not supposed to do that, ethics and all that, but she usually tells me. So I know a lot about our little town. That was Jenny Taylor from 12th Street. The blonde girl who looks like Bridget Bardot in the back? The one whose husband works at the Chevrolet garage? Yeah, that's the one. Man, I need to go over there and mow her lawn, teased I, for which I got a slap on the arm. We didn't talk about anything else for a couple days until Jack from next door invited us over to his place. He had gone down to the dock and caught a few fish and was smoking them. We decided to go over to his place. Jack and Liz spend a lot of time naked, usually in their pool house. Debs and I don't mind, and swim naked too. Not only is it nice, but when Sammy, their daughter, is around, let's just say it's worth it. Funny, but I expected Jack to enjoy it when Debs took off her outer garment and then her lower garment. He looked her over from head to toe, but has barely paid her any attention since. Jack's wife, Lisa, spends a lot of time in her chaise lounge, throwing her leg over her leg as if she doesn't care who sees her. Jack is constantly watching Lisa. Jack likes his wife, it's pretty obvious. Lisa has that perpetual bottle of wine, too. It's something you can get used to, I guess. To naked people, not wine. Anyway, we all sat in deck chairs and ate some very tasty smoked cod. Jack told me that he uses more brown sugar and less salt as well as soy sauce. It makes a sort of crust on the outside and the meat gets chewy. Yes, delicious. Do you ever go out and take pictures of people in public? Asked Deborah, like thunder. I blushed at such a question, but my Deborah never procrastinates with an answer. If she wants to know something, she just asks. "We used to when we were younger. We don't do this as much anymore," Lisa told her. "Nice fish," I said to Jack. "Uh-huh," he replied, both of us listening to what the women were talking about. "So how did you do it?" Debs asked Lisa. "Oh, a few times we flashed the truckers on the highway. Jack asked me to get them and show them to the drivers. Then we listened to them on the radio." She laughed and took a sip of wine. Then she lifted her huge breasts and swung them a couple times, demonstrating what she would do. We all laughed. "We had a neighbor at our house who watched me sunbathe. He even had a telescope in an upstairs room." "You mean in the nude?" asked Deborah. "Not at first. I was in a bathing suit. Jack asked me to swim topless, and one day I took everything off. It was hilarious. I could see him out there playing with himself when the sun was really close." Liz giggled at the memory. "I went topless when we were on a cruise a few months ago. Other than coming here and dunking my head in the water, that's all I've ever done," Deb said. "You should try it sometime. You have a great body." Jack picked up on that. "It's a kick in the ass to watch guys blush and worry when they suddenly see something they weren't supposed to see." Jack snorted at that. "Danny likes to watch women," Debs told them, causing my face to redden again. "Really?" said Lisa. She flirted some more. She was already facing me, and I could already see almost all of her body. Of course, with all this talking and all, I was getting aroused and trying to force myself to think about changing the oil in my truck. "Oh, look! Dan's getting horny," laughed Liz, and everyone, of course, looked at my tally. "Oh, my God!" said Liz, grinning. I grabbed a towel to cover myself. We soon managed to escape. "That was embarrassing," said I to Debs. "I'm not really shy, but that was a bit much." "Oh, don't be silly. It happens to men. Besides, you have a really nice body," said Debs to me with a smirk. I took a deep breath and walked over to my laptop. In his mind, he felt like he was part of the display, but in his mind, he felt there was something more. He couldn't quite figure out what it was then. "What are you writing, darling?" Debs interrupted my train of thought. "A science fiction story about a brain in a bottle," I told her. "Oh, I thought maybe you were writing something sexy?" "Maybe I will, I don't know yet. My idea is that sex happens in the head. All the nerve endings will stay there even without the body, but how will I get to that?" "You'll figure it out, honey. Hey, you want to come with me?" "Where are you going?" I asked. "I need new shoes for the dress I bought, and I thought you might want to help me pick them out." Why did I need to go shopping for women's shoes? Oh. I looked at Debs. She was wearing a shorter skirt than she usually wore and a pale-colored blouse. A black bra was showing through it. "Are you thinking what I'm thinking?" I asked. "I just wanted to try it. After talking to Jenny and after we talked to Jack and Lisa, I was curious. So, do you want to go?" She gave me a sexy smile. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I got up. To get into her Camaro, I had to lower the passenger seat all the way down and recline, but even so, I felt like 3 more inches for my legs would have definitely helped. The back seat was impossible. They could have cared less about even having one. No person on earth could have gotten in there with the front seat tilted back. My legs would have been crushed. Debs started the engine, and it roared quietly. Compared to my truck with its 3-inch dual exhaust pipes, it sounded a little weak. "Okay, where are we going? Walmart? Safeway? Old man Vidalis's store, maybe?" I asked. "Becky's." Debs didn't look in my direction. "Are you really going to show off your panties to someone at Becky's shoe store?" I asked. "I'm not wearing panties," Deborah giggled. "What are you up to?" I managed to keep from laughing. This was something I hadn't expected at all from my Deborah. "I don't know. Just curious, I guess." Mr. Cotton looked up from his desk as we walked in. He's slightly balding, in his early 40s, one of those guys who is noted for his gentleness. "Hello, guys. What can I show you today?" He was all business. I knew who he was, but didn't really know him. I'm looking for some light-colored shoes, maybe beige or silver, that will go with the dress, with a 3-inch heel, she told him. I think we can do that. Size 7 question mark. He looked at her feet, and Debs nodded. While he was in the back room, Deborah noticed a tracksuit. It had an elasticized top with a wide elastic that went around the bottom of her rib cage for support. It had shorts underneath, but with fringe like a skirt. Oh, look! It's so cute! She held it up as Mr. Cotton came out with several boxes. This outfit is on sale, only $169.95, he told her. I wanted to say that Walmart probably had the same thing for half that price, but kept silent. At that moment, the doorbells rang, and I looked around, and who else but Jenny Taylor entered the store, followed by her husband. Tom, or Tim, something like that was his name. One moment, please. Let me get Jonathan to help you. Cotton suddenly took an interest in Mrs. Taylor. He actually left Debs and me standing there to go wait for Jenny Taylor. He called out to someone, and a young man came out from a row of what appeared to be bathing suits. Debs looked at me and frowned. I knew exactly what she was thinking. Hi, I'm John. How can I help you? A young man approached. He lowered his gaze to the boxes. Well, I'm interested in shoes, Deborah told him with a slight tremor in her voice, and looked over to where Mr. Cotton was pointing Jenny Taylor to a seat. Her husband took the seat behind him so he could see over Mr. Cotton's shoulder. Mr. Cotton sat down on a small stool and reached out to remove one of her shoes. I suppressed a chuckle and got a warning look from Deborah. I wandered around the room for a bit, smart enough to ignore what Mr. Cotton and the Taylor woman were doing. Yeah, I had a pretty good idea what they were doing anyway. Debs quickly discarded the shoes the young man had shown her, and I noticed she clutched her knees tightly. I thought you were going to try those shoes, I asked her on the way home. Not with this company, was all she said. It was the first time in my 5 years of marriage to Deborah that I noticed her pouting. I also knew why, as I'd said before. I was smart. I kept my mouth shut. About a week later, Debs came in with the outfit she'd looked out for. Oh, did you go back to Becky's and buy it? I asked. No, it was at Walmart. $99.95. She grinned. Then she went and put it on. I have to admit it was cute on her, though perhaps more appropriate for those over 30. But her body fit, with half of her beautiful breasts sticking out. Unless she bent over, you couldn't see what was under her skirt. And it made me want to bend over and see what was under her skirt. So I did. Of course, there were matching panties under her skirt. How cute, I said to her. We went down to the gym for a little workout. We do it twice a week now, plus Debs walks with me to the promenade and back when it's not raining. I've been doing curls, which is heavy barbells, lifting them from my waist to my shoulders and repeating. Now I use 16-pound barbells and can do 20 reps pretty easily, only the last few start to burn. Give it a try, it's pretty good for a guy who's almost 70. Anyway, I look over and Debs is lying on his back pushing a machine designed to work his thighs with his legs. The machine is leaned against the wall, with the user's head facing the side of the room, large weights rising and falling as the person does leg presses. Tim, one of the people who works there, is leaning against the wall and talking to her. Nothing out of the ordinary. Tim is a skinny guy about 25 or so. He looks skinny, but there's nothing skinny about him. He seemed really interested in Deborah's workout. I walked over to her. I immediately noticed her pulling her knees up to her chest and then straining for a push-up. She was wearing a very heavy weight, over 100 pounds. Debs was also wearing the tan-colored swimsuit she usually wore. Tim looked at me with a nervous expression, apologized, and walked away. Wow, you've got a lot of weight on that thing, honey, I said just as she raised her knees. One clasp was undone and her outfit only had 2. Okay, let's just say the view turned out to be quite impressive. My Deborah waxes regularly, and in fact, so do I. When she lifted her legs, it showed so much that anyone who saw it would have realized for sure. Now I see why Tim was so interested, I told her with a laugh. "What, honey?" she asked, repeating the motion, but there was a smile on her face. I laughed again, then went to the treadmill, entered the 2-mile program, and hit the start button. From here, I could watch what was going on. I figured every guy in the club would run up to give her a hand, but none of them seemed to be paying attention. Later, as we showered and headed home, I asked her, "Did you satisfy your curiosity?" "Yes, I did. You noticed, didn't you?" She giggled. "Well, it really couldn't be missed," I said. "It was hilarious. It made poor Tim's face go pale," she said. "Me too," I laughed. "Well, I did, so no need for more, I guess. I was just curious. Maybe at the next bodybuilder show we could go to, and you could stand up there if you have the guts," I teased her. "You just want to see Sid without his clothes on." Debs snorted. "That would be fun too," said I. I'd already seen a naked Sid once before, a resident of our over-muscled gym. Admittedly, I wouldn't mind seeing her like that again. "I think I'll go along with that," added Debs. I looked at her in surprise. She stuck out her tongue. "That's all there is to say about this frivolous story for now. My wife Deborah got curious and let Tim from our gym look at her body, and he saw pretty much everything too. Was it sexy? I have to say that it didn't embarrass me that she did that, and it became another thing I know about my lady. Tim has been very attentive since then, which is nice. But Debs hasn't done anything like that again, although one of these days I expect her to wear a new outfit. I'm wondering what she'll wear as underwear. Maybe a thong, transparent panties, or nothing. The thought of her having nothing under her skirt keeps me wondering, but we know everyone there, so that would be too much, I guess. It's a bodybuilding show. It takes place the first week of September, about 90 miles off the coast. It's a bunch of old assholes at a men's club, so I'll fit right in. The women who put on the show know all about old assholes in men's clubs, so they put on a very interesting show, even wandering around the audience giving close-ups and collecting dollar bills. The guys hold the dollar bills above someone's head so they can look over their shoulder and see what's going on. It's all a lot of fun, and I'm sure it's a very interesting show. When Debs and I went there last year, we didn't know about the fully nude part. That was a bit of a surprise, and when one of the officials, the Grand Ruler of the Order of the Yak or something, handed Debs a number for her part of the show, well, that was unexpected, too. Who knows? Will Deborah go for it? Will she go that far? How does it feel to have my own wife naked in front of 50 old guys? On that cruise we went on, she didn't worry about being topless in public. She wasn't shy about peeking at Tim at the gym, and she was actually going to do something at the shoe store. Although she was a little offended when the owner went off to look at that Taylor woman. Women are funny creatures, and just when I think I've got it all figured out, it turns out I don't. Will my Deborah really dance without clothes on stage in front of strange men? Would she go out into the audience, where we guess many of them might feel, or at least try to? I've told her that half a dozen times. We'll see. That's all she says to me. I don't know, but I'm going to find out. Honestly, I think I'm going to enjoy seeing it. So this morning I sent in the questionnaire along with the club dues. Apparently I have to be a member of the club to get into the show. I guess I'll find out. The end. Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.